comes a betrayal. And there are nights when the wind itself carries messages not of comfort, but of warning. Last night, I could not sleep. I heard the voice of the Almighty whisper in my spirit. He said, "Speak, Ibrahim, for a nation across the ocean is standing at the edge of its destiny. And so today, I speak not as a president, but as a servant of truth. This message is not for Burkina Faso alone. It is for Jamaica, and to the man chosen to lead her, Andrew Holnes. For Allah, the most just, has shown me a vision, and I must deliver it. Even if the world calls me mad, even if power calls me naive, truth must be spoken before the storm arrives. I have seen many lands in my lifetime, but few possess the spirit that breathes in Jamaica. A land washed by the sea, crowned with mountains, and filled with people whose laughter echoes the memory of freedom. Your ancestors were not born slaves. They were kings, warriors, builders of nations. Their chains did not define them. Their resistance did. From the ashes of plantations rose songs of defiance. From blood-soaked soil grew the flowers of resilience. The world once trembled at the sound of your drums, for those drums spoke the language of freedom itself. But now, the rhythm has changed. The drums have grown quieter, and the silence, that silence is not peace, it is submission. I have watched your nation trade its inheritance for comfort. Your leaders stand at podiums wrapped in Western suits, reciting promises not written by their own hearts, but by hands in Washington, London, and Brussels. They call it partnership.
Do you want to crack the code to YouTube success, but don't know where to start?
But tell me, what partnership demands your obedience? What alliance starves your farmers and feeds their markets? What friendship demands your minerals, your land, your data, while giving you debt in return? I have seen this before. I saw it in Africa, in the villages of Niger, where foreign soldiers stand guard over uranium that powers Paris. I saw it in Congo, where children dig for cobalt so the West can drive electric cars. And now, I see it in Jamaica, where gold glitters beneath your hills, and oil sleeps under your sea. Yet your people still walk hungry. Allah showed me this vision. A tree once green, rooted in strength, now hollowed by termites that call themselves friends. Its leaves still shine in the sun, but its core is rotting. That tree is Jamaica. And if it is not healed soon, the next wind will break it. You see, corruption is not always loud. Sometimes it wears perfume and speaks English. Sometimes it signs investment deals under the banner of development. But every lie told to the people is a dagger to the soul of a nation. Andrew Holnes, Allah has placed you in power not to serve the West, but to serve your people. Yet, you have built roads that lead not to the villages, but to foreign banks. You have opened your ports, not for your farmers, but for corporations that see Jamaica not as home, but as harvest. I say this not to shame you, but to remind you, when a leader forgets the faces of the people who lifted him, he becomes a stranger in his own land. And Jamaica is calling to you now. Priminister, her rivers whisper, her mountains weep. Her children ask questions you have not answered, for nations do not die when their armies fall. They die when their leaders forget who they serve. I have seen the signs. And Allah has told me, speak before the sea rises, speak before the tree falls. So I speak. Every empire begins with a promise. They promise roads, security, prosperity, but beneath those promises hides a quiet theft. First, they send their aid, then their experts, then their soldiers. And by the time you realize your freedom is gone, they have written your destiny in their own language. Jamaica, you stand at this moment now. Gold and oil, two gifts of the earth, have been discovered upon your soil. But tell me, when did gold ever bring peace? When did oil ever bring justice? The West smiles, congratulates, and arrives with briefcases. They tell you they want to help you develop, but the contracts are written in the language of control. They call it investment. But it is the oldest form of conquest, economic enslavement. I have walked through my continent and seen the scars left by such deception. Africa was once richer than any empire, but we believed their promises. We allowed them to mine our wealth, to dictate our policies, to teach us shame for being ourselves. Now, I see the same hand reaching across the Atlantic to Jamaica. The same smile, the same poison. And Allah says, warn them before they drink it. Mr. Holnes, you cannot build your nation with the bricks of deceit. You cannot serve two masters, your people and your oppressors. One will bless you, the other will break you. Do you not see the signs? Your youth are restless. Your streets hum with silent anger. Your people cheer for foreign aid, but their hearts crave self-dignity. And you, Prime Minister, have a choice. To be remembered as the man who returned Jamaica to its people, or the man who sold it to its buyers. For Allah does not bless injustice, and the blood of the poor cries out louder than speeches. Andrew Holnes, this warning is not from Ibrahim, it is from heaven. For leadership is not privilege, it is burden. And when you misuse it, the heavens record every act. Allah showed me your island trembling, waves rising higher than they should, rains that would not stop, and voices crying from the hills. Where is justice? He showed me a great palace built on sand, and beneath it, the bones of the forgotten. And he said, this is what happens when a leader builds his throne on the suffering of his people. You have smiled with those who profit from Jamaica's weakness. You have spoken of prosperity while your teachers beg for wages. You have promised light while half your nation stands in darkness. You have lifted foreign flags higher than your own. And yet, you are not beyond redemption. But redemption demands humility. For if you do not listen, if you continue to bow before those who mock your people, then the sea will reclaim what it gave. The wealth beneath your soil will curse you instead of blessing you. And your name will not be remembered among builders, but among betrayers. Jamaica will burn not by fire, but by the slow decay of apathy and corruption. And the world will ask, how did a nation so strong lose its soul? It will be said, because truth knocked and no one answered. Mr. Holnes, I speak these words not in anger, but in duty. For silence in the face of injustice is the loudest sin of all. Return to your people. Listen to their cries before they become curses. For when Allah's justice comes, it does not knock, it breaks. But even in warning, there is mercy. Even in the storm, there is still a rainbow waiting to emerge. Jamaica can still rise again, stronger, freer, prouder. Your people have not lost their spirit. They have only forgotten its power. For within every Jamaican heart lies the same fire that once broke chains. That fire only needs one spark of truth to burn again. Mr. Holnes, you were chosen to lead. Not to please the world, but to protect your people. You were not given power to serve masters abroad, but to restore dignity at home. Redemption begins when truth is spoken aloud. If you turn your heart toward your people, Allah will turn His mercy toward you. But if you continue in deceit, your throne will become your punishment, and your silence, your downfall. To the people of Jamaica, stand firm, but do not hate. Resist, but do not destroy. Unite, for your unity is your weapon. No empire can enslave a people who have remembered who they are. The Almighty watches over every nation, and when truth stands, even the mighty bow. So rise, Jamaica. Rise in truth. Rise in justice. Rise in faith. For the storm is not to destroy you. It is to awaken you.
Are you actually...
That rippled across the Caribbean like a storm. On the morning of October 8, 2025, during a regional leadership forum streamed live from Kingston, Jamaica, Prime Minister Andrew Holnes looked straight into the camera and said, "You think you are a hero, but heroes do not divide nations. They build them." His words, sharp and deliberate, were directed at Captain Ibrahim Treare, the 36-year-old leader of Burkina Faso, a man whose revolutionary message had spread beyond Africa and begun to echo in the Caribbean. What followed within 24 hours would leave both the Caribbean and the African continent in stunned silence. The clash did not begin in Kingston. It began quietly, in the minds of young people scattered across two continents, Africa and the Caribbean, bound by a history of displacement yet divided by centuries of silence. In the past year, Ibrahim Treare, the Burkinabe leader who rose to power through a populist military revolution, had become something of a global phenomenon. His speeches on sovereignty, youth empowerment, and the rejection of Western control had reached millions beyond the borders of Burkina Faso. His voice, translated into Creole, Patois, and French, had circulated through TikTok clips, YouTube shorts, and campus discussions from Accra to Kingston. Young Caribbean students, long frustrated with political stagnation and social inequality, found something raw and magnetic in Traore's tone, a sense of defiance that felt both new and familiar. By mid-2025, it was clear this was more than admiration. It was a connection. Traore's message resonated with a growing Caribbean youth movement calling for economic sovereignty, protection of local resources, and cultural pride. In Jamaica, university circles began referring to him as the African Flame, a symbolic voice for post-colonial awakening. For Andrew Holnes, this was becoming a political complication. Holnes, who had maintained a reputation as a pragmatic and stable leader in the region, suddenly found himself at the center of an unexpected ideological storm. Critics accused him of aligning too closely with Western interests. Supporters insisted he was simply being realistic in navigating Jamaica's fragile economy and international partnerships. Yet, beneath the public arguments, something deeper was stirring, a battle of narratives. Holnes represented continuity, order, and diplomacy. Treare represented rupture, courage, and rebellion. When Holnes's administration noticed that even high school students were sharing Traore's speeches under hashtags like New Africa, Caribbean Rise, alarm bells began to ring inside Jamaica's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Officials worried that Traore's influence, though indirect, could destabilize perceptions of government legitimacy. In a digital age, one viral idea could spark real unrest. The tension finally reached its breaking point when Holnes attended the Caribbean Leadership Forum 2025, a regional summit hosted in Kingston. The theme of the summit was Shared Futures, Rebuilding Trust in the Global South. In one segment of the discussion, a journalist posed a seemingly simple question. Prime Minister, what do you make of the growing admiration for Captain Ibrahim Treare among young people in Jamaica and across the Caribbean? Holnes's expression changed slightly, not of anger, but of careful restraint. His answer was long, but the line that captured headlines was one sentence. You think you are a hero, but heroes do not divide nations, they build them. Though Holnes never mentioned Traore's name directly, the implication was unmistakable. Within hours, news outlets across Africa and the Caribbean replayed the clip. Commentators debated whether Holnes had gone too far, or finally said what others were afraid to say. By nightfall, the statement had gone global. But what made this report different was not the statement itself. It was how swiftly and personally the response came. By the following evening, October 9, 2025, the air in Ouagadougou felt charged with quiet anticipation. Rumors began circulating early that Captain Ibrahim Treare was preparing an official address. Around 8:00 p.m. local time, the national broadcaster interrupted regular programming. The usual patriotic music faded, replaced by silence. Then came the image. Treare, standing at a wooden podium, flanked by the national flag and a single microphone. He looked composed, but his tone carried gravity. I have heard words spoken far away, he began. Words that were not addressed to me, but that were meant for me, and for all who believe that freedom still has a cost. The camera held on his face, firm, unflinching. When a man calls another a hero, it is not always praise, he continued. Sometimes it is a warning, a way of saying, do not inspire too much, do not awaken too many. But if the truth shakes the comfortable, let it shake. His words were not fiery or loud. They were measured, deliberate, a direct counterpoint to Holnes's polished caution. We are not dividing the world, Treare said. We are revealing the fractures left by those who divided it long before we were born. They told us to obey. They told us to wait. They told us that safety lies in silence. But the silence has cost us everything: our dignity, our direction, our faith in ourselves. Across social media, Caribbean commentators immediately picked up on his phrasing. Some praised his eloquence, others criticized his rhetoric as confrontational. But few could deny that his speech had resonance. In St. Lucia, university students gathered to watch the address in campus halls. In Jamaica, independent broadcasters streamed it live, translating his words into English and patois simultaneously. Treare went on, "I have no quarrel with any leader. My quarrel is with fear, fear that paralyzes nations and convinces them that their strength lies in begging rather than building. We have been trained to think that development means permission, but the only permission we ever needed was courage." His statement seemed to strike directly at the heart of Holnes's critique, without ever naming him. "If our courage offends those who prefer comfort," Treare said, "then perhaps it is time they examine what comfort costs. For every nation that has stayed silent in the name of peace has paid for that silence in chains." By the time his speech ended, 20 minutes later, the internet was on fire. The video spread across both continents, accumulating millions of views within hours. News anchors scrambled to interpret its meaning. Caribbean think tanks released statements calling for calm. African analysts described it as one of the most symbolically significant political exchanges in recent history. In the Caribbean, young people began sharing Treare's quote as a digital poster. "If the truth shakes the comfortable, let it shake." It became a slogan, and for some, a movement. Holnes's office released no immediate response, yet sources inside Jamaica's foreign ministry reported deep unease over how rapidly the speech had spread. Some senior officials reportedly described Treare's address as a direct attempt to reframe Jamaica's political identity. Meanwhile, in Burkina Faso, Treare's message was seen not as a provocation, but as an assertion of dignity. Political analysts across Africa pointed out that Treare had not insulted or attacked Holnes. He had simply challenged the idea that unity requires submission. In Accra, one political scientist summarized it this way: "This is not Africa versus the Caribbean. This is the global South speaking to itself, unfiltered, unmediated. That's what scares the old powers." Indeed, the implications went far beyond two leaders. For the first time in decades, Africa and the Caribbean were having a direct ideological conversation, not through colonial intermediaries or economic blocs, but through moral conviction. By the night of October 9th, the speech had reached full intensity. In Jamaica, the streets of Kingston hummed with quiet conversations. Students, taxi drivers, and shop owners debated the meaning of the exchange.
"I canceled my mid-journey subscription."
National integrity. Others accused him of playing the role of a polite messenger for the West. Small groups gathered at Emancipation Park holding homemade placards. "We are watching Africa. Our story is not over." On social media, Jamaican influencers posted side-by-side clips of both leaders' speeches. Comment sections filled with thousands of comments: admiration, criticism, confusion, pride. The exchange had transcended politics. It was becoming personal. Across the Caribbean, the debate deepened. Trinidadian columnist Marlon Paris wrote, "Holnes represents the pragmatism that keeps us afloat. Treare represents the courage that reminds us we are more than survivors. This is not a rivalry, it is a reflection." In Barbados, the Priminister called for measured dialogue, emphasizing that Caribbean nations should not import ideological conflicts. Yet the conversation was already beyond containment. In Burkina Faso, Treare's speech was replayed every hour. Youth organizations held open discussions titled "The Future of Global South Solidarity." Across African capitals, the mood was electric. The idea that an African voice could awaken echoes across the ocean carried immense symbolic power. Political historians compared it to earlier waves of Pan-African consciousness, the days of Marcus Garvey, Kwame Nkrumah, and the Caribbean intellectuals, who had once dreamed of unity between Africa and its diaspora. But this time, the connection was not forged in conference halls or diplomatic communiques. It was unfolding in real time, across screens and hearts, through words charged with moral energy. Meanwhile, Western analysts watched closely. A report by the London-based Institute for Global Governance noted that the growing ideological synchronization between African populist movements and Caribbean youth discourse may alter regional alliances in unpredictable ways. Translation: this was becoming political. In Washington, officials reportedly viewed the development with concern. One unnamed diplomat was quoted saying, "We can't underestimate the symbolic power of shared post-colonial rhetoric when amplified by digital media." But to ordinary people, it wasn't rhetoric, it was recognition. Across online spaces, Jamaicans and Burkinabés began engaging directly, sharing music, messages, and videos about shared histories of resistance. For the first time in modern memory, Africa and the Caribbean were speaking to each other without translation. The emotional climax came when a short clip from Traore's speech went viral, just 10 seconds long. "We are not asking the world to love us. We are asking our children to stop fearing their own reflection." The video was viewed over 40 million times within 48 hours. In Kingston, that sentence became graffiti on school walls. In Ouagadougou, it became a mural. The clash between two leaders had become a bridge between two worlds. In the days that followed, both leaders maintained a deliberate silence. There were no follow-up statements, no interviews, no public comments, yet the silence spoke volumes. In Jamaica, Prime Minister Holnes focused on domestic programs, emphasizing unity and stability. In Burkina Faso, Traore continued his tours across rural provinces, encouraging local development and youth engagement. But beneath the calm, the world had shifted, not through policy, but through perception. The Holnes-Traore exchange had revealed the psychological fault lines within the global South. For decades, leaders from post-colonial nations had struggled to balance pride and pragmatism, to survive economically while preserving sovereignty. Holnes's message was, in many ways, the voice of order, a reminder that revolution without stability risks collapse. Traore's was the voice of conscience, warning that stability without justice is a quiet form of decay. Neither was entirely wrong, but together their words reopened an old wound, the one history left unhealed. In universities, scholars began dissecting the exchange as a defining moment in 21st century post-colonial dialogue. African Caribbean intellectual circles framed it as a confrontation between inherited caution and emergent courage. Beyond academia, ordinary citizens began reflecting on their own positions. Could a people be truly free if they still sought permission to act? Could stability mean anything if it was built on silence? For many, the most haunting part of the story was not the words spoken, but the fact that they were spoken at all. Two leaders, both products of nations once ruled by others, had confronted each other not with weapons, but with ideas. The result was neither victory nor defeat. It was...
Yes, my people, your people, blessed love. My God. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Wow. We thank you, Most High God Almighty, for Ibrahim treare. We have suffered. We have been held back and held down and kept down long enough in Jamaica by our own Jamaican government. And here comes a man out of Africa, Burkina Faso, who have done more for his country in a short period of time than our own prime ministers all put together. The youths are rising up. The people, the nation is rising up. Oh, wow. Now, we choose Ibrahim treare and his concept and his ideas and what he stood for and stand for way further than our own prime ministers all together. Oh, we're sick and tired and sick and tired of being sick and tired and sick and tired of being sick and tired of held down, kept back and hold back. We have been suffering from our people, from our parents up until this time, and we're watching and seeing our children facing the same suffering. And we know that under Ibrahim treare rule, it would not so the change in a short period of time. Why the resistance? Why the holdback? And it's getting worse, worse in Jamaica. Our government are cutting their medical subsidiary. Them cutting them support from us, the poor people. Them still have it down on the minimum wage, which is way down little like that. Oh my God. If the truth disturb the comfortable, then let it disturb them. I choose to wear my lion face because they are using harsh aggression against us. You know, when I heard about some of the things that they are and the laws that they're bringing in place, it's like all they stand for and stood for is to fight against us, the people, the Jamaican people, the poor people. Come on, man. Away. Dissolve. Dissolve, man. Away. We have already spoken that we really much rather Ibrahim treare than all of our government. Too much corruption. Our people are so deceitful and unfair. Corruption is growing at its highest heights in Jamaica, and our leaders are not doing nothing to quench it down because they themselves are the most corrupt among us. Lord God Almighty, O Most High Yahshua, we're watching our people suffering, dying, our hospitals, no equipment, low equipment. We can't spend, we don't have the money to spend to get the medical services that we need. What more do you want from us, sir? What do you want us to do, sir? To stay in a corner and go away and die? Because that's what you're forcing us to do. That's what you and your government and your prime ministers and your ministers are forcing us to do. Why? Why do you take side? Why do you take side against us? Why? What have we done wrong? What wrongs have we done? Why can't you stand up for us? For the good of your nation and your people? Why? And there's so much to say. There's so much to say, but we can't say it in one go until we see righteousness. Till we see righteousness and fairness in our country, amongst our people. Not unfairness, not curry favor, not corruption. Away with unrighteousness. Dissolve and righteousness. Oh, we love Ibrahim treare, man. We love, nothing can change it. Nothing can change it. Nothing that any one of you do. And you can join with your Western counterparts. But you cannot beat this leader, and you cannot beat the seeds that is planted in the nation of people. Just like you cannot beat Marcus Garvey and what they have done. Whoa. It's like when I hate black people. When I hate a man. When I not no love for we. I am very sure I would do a better job. Better job. I'm sure of it. I've said my piece. I've said my piece. Some more people, you can rise up and say your piece also. Yeah? Let's join in one voice. I don't think this is gonna stop right now. Righteousness has started, the ball of righteousness is started to roll. And nothing can stop it or blow it up. The people need justice, sovereignty, stability. We need food. We need food. Food, we can't pay for the foods. We can't pay for the medical services. What more do you guys want from us? I'm a hospital patient of KPH, and I speak nothing but truth. Hi God, Jaja, oh Most High, oh Most High. You know, no love for the black man. I don't think so. I do not think you guys have any love for us, the black man. And we should stay in silence continually. We have stayed in silence for so many years. And where does it get us? You not get to nowhere. Nowhere. We're worse. We're just getting worse and worse. And the rich getting better and better and better and better and better and better. Climbing more and more every day. While we plunge further down in poverty, in hunger, in suffering.